Emma sat by the window, watching the rain drip lazily down the glass, each drop tracing a path like her restless thoughts. The house was quiet except for the soft ticking of the clock and the occasional rustle of the curtains in the breeze. Mark, her husband, had gone upstairs hours ago, probably asleep already, leaving Emma alone with her thoughts, her heart strangely heavy with a feeling she couldn't name. It wasn't sadness exactly, but a deep, gnawing emptiness that had grown over months, creeping into the quiet spaces of their life together. She looked around the living room, familiar yet oddly distant, the furniture and photographs, all symbols of a life that sometimes felt more like routine than passion. Her phone buzzed on the table, breaking the silence, and she glanced at it to see a message from her friends from the book club, inviting her to a small gathering that evening, just a casual catch-up. Emma hesitated, thinking about Mark upstairs, thinking about whether it was right to leave him even for an hour, but her curiosity overpowered caution, and she typed a quick, "I'll be there." As she stepped out into the rain, umbrella in hand, the chill air and the sound of water splashing against the sidewalk seemed to wash away the heaviness in her chest, replacing it with a flicker of excitement she hadn't felt in a long time. At her friend's house, the warmth and chatter hit her immediately, wrapping around her like a soft blanket, and she felt herself smiling, something that had been rare lately. Laughter filled the room, spilling from the kitchen into the living area, and the familiar faces of people she had once shared long talks with welcomed her like old sunlight after a storm. There was Liam, someone she had known in the past but hadn't seen in years, standing there with a gentle smile, the kind that could make a person feel seen without words. Emma felt her pulse quicken, not from anything scandalous, but from the undeniable comfort of recognition, the spark of connection that reminded her she was more than the tired roles she played at home. Conversations flowed easily, stories were shared, and she found herself laughing more freely than she had in months, the sound of her own voice almost foreign in its joy. As the night stretched on, Emma noticed how Liam listened, really listened, to what she said, his eyes warm and attentive, and for the first time in a long time, she felt understood, not just heard. Each moment with him brought a mixture of delight and confusion, a strange tug of emotion she hadn't expected, and she realized that her heart had been quietly waiting for something to awaken it again. She thought about Mark, lying upstairs, probably dreaming without any inkling of the storm of feelings swirling inside her, and a pang of guilt brushed her consciousness, soft but undeniable. Yet, alongside guilt was the undeniable thrill of being noticed, of being appreciated in ways that went beyond the ordinary, and Emma couldn't help but be swept up in it, caught between the comfort of familiarity and the excitement of rediscovered emotion. The room around her seemed to shrink, every laugh, every shared glance with Liam magnified in intensity, creating an atmosphere that was intimate without being improper, emotional without being inappropriate. She found herself leaning into conversations, sharing small pieces of herself she had tucked away, feeling the warmth of human connection pulse like fire through her veins. And she realized how starved she had been for it, how much she had missed simply being fully present with someone who understood her heart. Time moved strangely in that space, minutes blending into hours, the rain outside continuing its gentle rhythm as if keeping time with her heartbeat. By the end of the night, Emma felt a mix of exhilaration and unease, a cocktail of emotions that left her breathless and thoughtful, knowing she had stepped into a space that revealed both longing and truth about herself. Walking back home, her coat damp from the drizzle, she felt the weight of silence again when she entered the house. The quiet of the rooms, the faint smell of Mark's aftershave from the night before, the muted hum of the heater, everything familiar, yet suddenly foreign. She paused at the staircase, listening to Mark's even breathing from upstairs, and for a moment wondered if he would ever notice the change in her, the stirring inside her that no one else had touched for years. It was a night that promised both reflection and reckoning, a night that began with simple curiosity but ended with the realization that her heart had quietly shifted, awakened by laughter, attention, and the gentle presence of someone who saw her in a way she had almost forgotten she could be seen. As she slipped into bed beside Mark, careful not to wake him, she felt the duality of her emotions, love and longing, guilt and joy, comfort and desire, all tangled together, each one real and undeniable, creating a storm of feelings that promised to reshape her understanding of herself and her life. Sleep came fitfully as her mind wandered through the conversations, the laughter, the quiet smiles exchanged with Liam, replaying moments with a vividness that made her question everything she had taken for granted. And as the night deepened, the rain tapping softly on the roof above, Emma realized that something fundamental had shifted inside her, a whisper of change that hinted at possibilities she hadn't allowed herself to imagine in years. A gentle nudge toward emotional awakening, a reminder that even within routine and comfort, the heart could still stir, still long, still awaken to new feelings in the quiet hours when no one was watching. The next evening, Emma couldn't shake the memory of last night, the warmth, the laughter, and especially the way Liam's eyes seemed to understand her without effort. The thought made her chest tighten with a mix of excitement and guilt, but she found herself drawn again to the idea of seeing him, of feeling that spark she hadn't realized she missed so deeply. Her friends called, inviting her for another small gathering, and she agreed almost without thinking, eager for connection, yet unsure what she would find. When she arrived, the room was familiar, the same cozy furniture, soft lights, and the comforting smell of tea and pastries filling the space. Liam was there too, greeting her with a gentle smile that made her heart flutter despite herself. They gravitated toward each other naturally, their conversation flowing effortlessly, starting with small talk but quickly deepening into shared stories, laughter, and quiet confessions. Emma found herself speaking more freely than she had in years, telling him about her day, her dreams, and even the tiny fears she kept hidden from Mark. Liam listened with patience and warmth, never interrupting, never judging, making Emma feel seen in a way that felt intoxicatingly rare. Every glance he offered, every soft chuckle at her jokes, pulled her in further, and she realized with a mix of guilt and longing that she was craving his attention, needing his presence more than she wanted to admit. Her friends chatted and laughed around them, but Emma's focus narrowed to the way Liam made her feel understood, alive, and cherished, something she had forgotten could exist outside of her marriage. The hours passed quickly, filled with easy conversation, small touches on the arm during laughter, shared smiles that lingered longer than necessary, and moments of quiet eye contact that seemed to speak volumes without a single word. Emma was aware of Mark, asleep at home, and the thought brought a pang of guilt, yet she also felt a thrill, a reminder of her own emotions that had been dormant for too long. She noticed the way Liam seemed to mirror her moods, a subtle attentiveness that made her feel like she mattered more than she had in a long time, and she began to realize that this connection was about more than attraction. It was about being truly understood, about having someone witness her heart in a way she hadn't experienced in years. At one point, Liam reached for a book she had mentioned wanting to read, handing it to her with a thoughtful smile, and the gesture, simple as it was, struck her deeply, making her heart beat faster and her thoughts whirl with conflicting emotions. They spoke about dreams, regrets, and hopes for the future, the kind of conversation that lingered in the soul long after it ended, and Emma felt an unexpected tenderness for him, a gentle ache of longing that felt both innocent and profoundly real. Her laughter and smiles came easier, her posture more relaxed, her whole being responding to the genuine warmth she felt from his presence, a stark contrast to the quiet, sometimes routine life she returned to each evening. As the night wore on, Emma found herself sitting closer to Liam, leaning in during conversation, exchanging small touches of hands when a joke or story prompted it, and feeling an internal conflict she hadn't anticipated, the pull between loyalty to Mark and the undeniable awakening within her own heart. At one moment, he shared a story about a past heartbreak, and she instinctively reached out to comfort him, their fingers brushing briefly, sending a shiver of connection through her. It was a touch full of meaning, but free of anything improper, a moment of human closeness that made her heart race. Emma was acutely aware of the intensity building between them, the emotional intimacy that grew with every shared laugh, every understanding glance, every empathetic response, and she felt herself being drawn into a world of feelings she had almost forgotten existed. The conversation turned to memories from their youth, to moments of vulnerability and personal growth, and Emma found herself revealing pieces of herself that she hadn't shared with anyone, not even Mark, in years. Liam responded with gentle encouragement, his words soft but filled with weight, making her feel validated, appreciated, and seen in ways that were almost overwhelming. She realized then that this wasn't about betrayal in the traditional sense. It was about her rediscovering herself, her capacity to feel, to connect, to be understood, and to experience warmth and affection in a platonic yet deeply emotional way that stirred her heart. The night ended too soon. The friends sang their goodbyes, and Emma walked out into the crisp evening air with a whirl of feelings, her mind replaying the conversations, the laughter, and the quiet moments of tenderness. She felt a bittersweet tension, joy at the connection she had experienced, and guilt at the knowledge that her husband remained unaware upstairs, asleep and trusting. Yet she couldn't deny the awakening she felt, the sense that her heart had stretched beyond routine, beyond comfort, and into a space where longing and emotional intimacy had room to breathe again. As she returned home, the familiar streets passing under her feet, Emma realized that she had entered a world of emotions that demanded attention, that required her to confront her own desires and feelings honestly. Walking into the quiet house, she paused at the stairs, listening to Mark's soft breathing, and felt the duality of her heart, loyalty and longing, comfort and desire, love and awakening, all tangled together like threads she had to carefully examine. She knew that the connection with Liam, gentle as it was not a threat, but a mirror reflecting what she had been missing: attention, understanding, and the acknowledgement of her own emotional needs. Yet the awareness brought both relief and tension, a complicated but real sense that her heart could feel deeply, even in unexpected ways. That night, as Emma lay in bed beside Mark, the silence of the house wrapping around her, she turned her thoughts inward, replaying each smile, each laugh, each meaningful glance, and felt her heart beating with a strange, new rhythm. It was not the reckless rush of impropriety, but the slow, quiet awakening of her own emotional world, a gentle reminder that life and love could be layered, that connections could teach and illuminate without crossing boundaries. Sleep came slowly, each memory of Liam's kindness and attentiveness lingering in her mind, making her aware of the complexities of the human heart, how longing and loyalty could coexist, and how emotional intimacy could awaken dormant feelings without ever breaking trust. And as the night deepened, with Mark still asleep upstairs, Emma understood that her life had subtly shifted in ways she could not yet fully name, that her heart had begun a journey of discovery, and that the quiet moments of connection she had experienced would stay with her, guiding her towards self-understanding, emotional honesty, and the delicate balance between love, longing, and awakening in ways both tender and profound.